Brooklyn State Senator Kevin Parker is here to talk about three important bills that could help a lot of people. Senator, thanks for being here tonight.
No, Cheryl, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And listen, a few days ago, I'm sure you know this, we learned that autism rates are climbing in the U.S. according to the CDC. For the first time, it's more children of color are being diagnosed. You have three bills, so let's start with the one that would require health insurers to provide full coverage.
Well, first, let me just say Azais and Pesach to those who are celebrating tonight, and certainly Ramadan Mubarak to the people who are celebrating Ramadan during this season. And yeah, you're right. This has been an issue for me because it's been huge in my community, and I mean across my community. What we find in New York State is that it's really at alarming rates, and nationally, we're seeing 1 in 36 children being diagnosed with autism. And so we've been kind of addressing it in the issues around insurance to make sure that those families that have family members who are dealing with this have the kind of medical coverage that they need in order to help their loved ones live full lives.
Yeah, and tell us more about the other bill that would mandate pediatricians to screen for autism. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, well, last year we passed a law that actually there was a mapping bill. And the mapping bill across the state of New York will let us know kind of if there are pockets and kind of help us identify where services are needing and where education needs to happen in our communities. But those of us who have children know that when you have a child, you have to, bring your child in every few months to get screenings. And we want to make sure that autism is one of those screenings that absolutely happens in every single community across the state of New York, to make sure that we find out early on, because we understand that early intervention and early intervention programs really are really helpful in addressing the needs of persons with autism and helping those families get the kind of resources that they need.
Yeah, and speaking of families getting the resources, you also have a bill that would help adults living with autism make that critical transition to independence. Tell us about that.
Well, again, similar to our foster care system, we really don't do a really good job here in New York around transitioning folks out of care into independence. And this legislation is to help us get to that place of developing a real transition plan so that people living with autism can, in fact, transition into independent living circumstances and making sure that they get the kind of skills and support that they need in order to do that successfully.
Yeah, and you referenced how prevalent this is in your community. Share with us how you were inspired to push this legislation because of what you see in your districts.
Again, we see it a lot. I have a number of friends and even some staff members who have children with autism, siblings with autism. And so we've had to deal with it in real time, literally in my office and literally amongst families and friends. And so, I understand the struggles that these families are dealing with. We're trying to understand the circumstance because autism manifests itself differently in different people. Right. And thus the needs are very different person to person. And so they really need individual plans, but also resources at every level to make sure that we're addressing the needs of these families.
Well, hopefully all of these bills get passed because there are so many New Yorkers living with autism who need help. Brooklyn State Senator Kevin Parker, appreciate your time tonight.